1, 2, 3. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least we thought we were free. And I can't forget the time we showed up and got your butts kicking by the CCP. And it's hard to stand up
when we're
on our knees, sucking their you-know-whats. And it's hard to be an American when they got us on their butts. You sabotaged me. You made me say vulgar things. You saw that? She was like, you're gonna say it. All right. Okay. I'm a little happier today, guys. I got eyes. I can see.
We're eating Texas toffee.
We just had the worst Chinese food that we've had in our life.
The worst in the world.
But we're in America, right? Maybe the CCP will take over the
Maybe
the
they
Chinese
have some
food.
like CCP nanoparticles in that terrible food.
Yeah.
By the time we get to Austin, we'll be like,
We'll be
Biden
cyborgs.
is the handsomest man.
Yeah.
And Kamala
That is my
is the
man.
most beautiful woman, and we'll do anything they tell us because they are our.
Right.
I call them the pantheon. So I have this term for the rulers, the controllers, the globalists. I just call them the pantheon. If you go back and you read Greek mythology, you will see all these characters. These Greek gods and demigods, they're fickle, they're capricious, they're lustful, they're lazy, they're jealous, and greedy.
Oh, this sounds like a leftist.
That's what's going on right now. And so, yeah, so I call them the pantheon, like Fauci is the high priest, because I get these alerts at least 5 times a day. Dr. Fauci says.
What do you subscribe
Dr.
to? I don't
Fauci.
get that. I mean, not that I want it. It's not that I'm jealous.
It's this news app. I think it's called News Now or something. It's like some news app, and it pulls in from a bunch of different news sources, but they're all on the left. I didn't know what I was signing up for when I downloaded the app. But
Oh, man.
it's really interesting because it's like Dr. Fauci says. Dr. Fauci, it's like Dr. Fauci. And so he's the high priest, and Bill Gates is the god. Bill Gates is our god. He's like, what is it? Is it Zeus? The one at the very top?
Yeah, it's in Greek myth. Yeah, Zeus. King of the gods.
Exactly. And we have all of these. And I guess Kamala, she wants to be Aphrodite, because she's got
This is the god of love sucking dicks.
Yes. Oh, don't talk like that, Christine.
That's my channel.
It takes all
I'd have
sorts
to
to make the
ban
world go
myself.
round.
I have to ban myself for
Yeah, but
that was part of my New Year's resolution was to curb my language a little bit, but I don't think I'm doing that well yet.
I want to share a theory I came up with.
Okay.
So we were there yesterday at the Capitol, and there was supposed to be a health freedom rally at the back of the Capitol. And up high, they have this big balcony where they had these guys acting like snipers, right? So they're like U.S. military, all in black. And it didn't take long after we got there for them to start doing the rubber bullets, the flashbangs,
Yeah.
the tear gas, and all of that. So if you can imagine, you've got these like Congress people and senators, they're in session while this is going on. They can't see, it's behind them. They can't see what's going on, they can only hear it. So that's why so many people capitulated to the Democrats, because to them, I'm sure, all of these, gunshot sounds and the building shakes and everything. And so they totally chickened out and they capitulated. That's what I think. So it's like there was a psychological operation specifically for the people who were in the hearings, right? And then there were like psychological operations on the general public with how the media is reporting everything,
Well, but didn't they certify the vote anyway?
They certified the vote anyway, yeah, but they used the fear, like Loeffler, basically she took her words back and said, no, Biden's won, and she cited the violence for her reason. Like, she was like, because of this violence, I'm taking all of my words back, and, I think the election should be certified. So, like, a massive
Yeah, just
psyop
negate
was
all of
done
the
on these-
the hundreds of thousands of evidences of proof Hundreds of, is that I say that grammatically? Hundreds of thousands, the types of, not my grammar brain's working.
Hundreds of thousands of
pieces of evidence.
Yeah, but I think it was like a massive psyop that was done on those government people.
But they still pushed the vote through anyway, so.
They pushed it through anyway, and now the United States is a vassal state of the CCP empire. We're
Oh, you mean the people? Oh, I see what you're saying. I think they were compromising their term codes. I think they were already, because it seems like they should know better. I mean, it's like, and at the end of the thing that pisses me off is,
you don't know how people are going to respond when they think that they're under attack. Like when they really believe that at any moment they're going to be shot dead.
I know, but for us. But then they should have turned it the other way, because it's the Patriots that were, storming the castle.
No, they'll do it for Antifa and BLM. They will see for Antifa. If Antifa and BLM give their demands, they'll capitulate to them. But they didn't capitulate to the right because they've been so indoctrinated to believe that the right, it's just all these armed militia. Like in their minds, armed militia from all over the country came here by the tens of thousands. And if they don't vote the way the left ones, then they're dead. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, because they're pussies. And they're, okay. I mean, there's so many perspectives, though.
Yeah, there are so many.
There's so many things that, I don't know. I'm not as demoralized last night as I was. I think because I got some sleep. I was tired. We've been driving 2 days straight. I got thrown out. I got maced.
I was like, I walked out of the hotel because I was just like, it's not worth it. And I walked out, and I'm walking down the sidewalk, and I'm like, where's Christine? Why isn't she with me?
Oh, I was like,
I walked out, and I walked back, and I saw this, like, you were trying to get this guy off you. Yeah. And my brain kind of went, like, what's going on? And then I took my phone out, and I started filming, but I was in so much shock that even the film I took wasn't that great, because I was just like, I was just so shocked, like I couldn't even, like, aim the phone properly. But I did tell them, I said, you're a good slave. I said, you're a very good slave. You're a slave of the CCP, and you don't even know it.
Yeah, and it's funny. Those are probably the same type of black people that are always complaining about racism and shit. But they have no issue when it comes to assaulting women. That's not discriminatory. That's not bad.
No.
Right.
No.
But if somebody looks at you the wrong way and gives you a microaggression.
So what they've done to black populations, they've done to black people, is tailored the messaging specifically to us. So they do this reverse psychology, because everybody knows about the Tuskegee experiment. What they do is they say, we know about the Tuskegee experiment, and we care about you so much. So because you know that we know about the Tuskegee experiment, and you know that we're telling you that we think it was a horrible thing to happen, therefore you should trust us, and you should take the vaccine, because more black people are dying of coronavirus than of anybody. And so if anybody loves and cares about black people, they will get the vaccine, they will wear their mask, they will support the government in destroying people's lives and their small businesses. That's how much you've got to show your love for black people by destroying everybody's livelihood, black people's livelihoods included. So it's like this psychological operation, it's indoctrination, it's reverse psychology, and also the Stockholm Syndrome, like Sam said, right? So the Stockholm Syndrome is somebody literally takes you hostage, and then you develop an affection for the person who took you hostage. Yeah. And you care about the person. Like, think about, there are people in San Francisco and there are people in LA who love Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters. Those people have Stockholm Syndrome. Yeah. And they love these people who are destroying their lives.
Their businesses.
And their businesses and making them homeless. And they love these people.
Well,
you know?
it's also just like their ego and the whole like psyop with race, that they've attached people to, because the the people see, they know that people when they're politicians, these people basically they project their identity onto them. So if they see Kamala as a successful woman who's moving up in the world, who will possibly be the first black female president, they'll support that no matter what she's done, no matter what she's even doing to them, because in their mind, their ego, it feeds their ego, because they're just like, she's me, that's me as a black woman president.
Well, I've written a series of articles, and I've shared some about how every time a society takes a leap, like technologically or money-wise, there's always human sacrifice involved every single time. It's like we can't have new technology without human sacrifice.
Yeah.
And so for black people who love Kamala, the very same people who months before hated Kamala, like they would hear their name and they would spit. It was that bad. Now they're championing her because she is for posterity. Not for prosperity for us, but for posterity, which means they're thinking ahead. They're willing to sacrifice their lives and their children's lives so that in the future, in history books, in these history textbooks and all of these documentaries, they'll say the first female black president of the United States, Kamala Harris, and then they can say to their kids and grandkids, look, I was one of her most ardent supporters.
Yeah.
Right?
Ego, though. That's the ego.
It's
thing.
ego.
Yeah.
It's like identification. And so if you identify yourself with something physical in the world that's temporal, that's going to turn to dust anyway, no matter what we do. When you identify with that, it's so easy to be bamboozled, to be scammed, to be tricked, to have hoaxes done on you, because you're not seeing the big picture. Or I'll speak for myself, because I'm not seeing the big picture. I can't see everything, It's like back in the Babylonian times or the Canaanites. I mean, if they wanted a good harvest for the next year, they would take their babies and give them to Baal to be burned alive. And I thought about this the other day. It's like...
just like women do for abortion. They kill their children for their careers.
Exactly.
Like, I want to be a lawyer, but I got pregnant because I'm a whore. But I'm going to kill my... No, I shouldn't say that. Well...
But yeah,
but I mean, there of course, there are different situations.
So but it's like when you like really, really look at it, like the people who are so against capital punishment, they're against killing people who killed people willfully, premeditatively, and with gusto and relish, right?
Yeah. But
they are all for
abortions.
Killing innocent human beings in the womb, and it's like. But it's all political. It's all it's all political, and
it's all about their selfishness. It's their selfishness. It's not, it's not even like they care. They project that they care about. Even with the mask thing, it's either A, you really believe this shit. You really believe that if cloth mask is going to save the world, is going to save you, even though people, the virologists wear hazmat suits when they're dealing with this stuff. But you think a mask, even though it says on the box it doesn't protect you, you still believe, because you're in a cult, that this shit works. It's either that, or they want to show everybody what a good person they are by virtue signaling and wearing the mask and making other people wear the mask and making them feel guilty, because it's not like that.
When you wear the mask, you say, I am a true believer. I'm a true believer. I'm a good person. Look at me. I'm a good person. I care. I'm willing to sacrifice for other people. But it's really, I'm willing for other people to sacrifice their lives for me, because my tech company, the tech company that I work for, or the government agency that I work for, is getting more powerful, bigger, and richer through this coronavirus. So, I'm willing. It's like the more I push this agenda, the more secure my career becomes, the more likely I'm going to get to be promoted, the more I show how much I care doing this, I'm more likely to go into like the upper echelons of whatever organization I'm in. And I mean, it's obvious, and I don't even think that people who are doing this know it consciously. It's something that we all know, but they know it. It's like a survival instinct, right?
Yeah.
It's just people need to survive, and I will do, like, maybe if I worked for a big tech company, or if I worked for a university system, or if I worked for like a big medical hospital or institution, maybe I would do what many people are doing and just ignore, you know what I mean? It's just like back in the slavery days. You know, there were white people who knew slavery
like now,
was wrong.
today?
Back in the slavery days, yeah, we're still living under slavery. We're still slaves. We're still in a slave system.
But I know what you mean.
It's like if
The slavery that they make us feel guilty for and make movies about every other year. And,
yeah.
You know.
But it's like it's sort of like I cannot afford to feel sorry for those people. I cannot afford to feel guilty, because the moment I do, that means my whole house of cards crumbles, and then I have to take responsibility for the role that I'm playing in this mass depopulation scheme. You know, I mean, it's like for the past 10 months.
Which to me, there's still redemption if you can admit that. If you know and you're not doing anything about it.
But then you might have to go live off grid and be totally self-sufficient, because like Nancy Pelosi today in a press conference, she was talking about, she said, the list. She was naming all of these, you know, government officials, Congress people, senators, basically calling them out, Republicans, like, are you going to stand with us, or are you going to stand with Trump? Basically, in a very threatening tone. And she was talking about the list. So, you know, like AOC and the squad and all of them, they have this list of people that they call Trump enablers. Trump enablers.
I'm on that. I'm probably at the bottom, but I'm on there too.
I'm sure I'm on the list, because all it takes to get on the list is to ask questions. That's all it takes. It's to show just a little bit of skepticism.
I'm probably before you though, because I'm bigger. You're on there too, but it's like
no,
it's
you're
like,
bigger.
Who's at the top?
No, but listen, Facebook has deleted so many of my posts. So many of my posts have been deleted from Facebook.
Yeah.
You know, so I know I'm on their list because I have this like series that I call Questioning Thoughts, and I pick a subject. It could be like vaccines or the CCP.
What is your
BLM.
what is your it's question? What kind of class in Inonge? What is your?
It's
YouTube?
called Questioning Thoughts.
Question. Oh, okay. Because it was okay. Questioning thoughts. I'll put it. I'll post this, and then later I'll put in the links, because there actually been people have asked about you, Inonge. I think you're gonna be big, Inonge. I think you're gonna blow up.
Yeah, it's like
you're gonna be a star, kid. You're gonna be a star.
It's like I had this image of myself, like it was this morning, like I was blown up and I was shattered into billions of pieces, and these little shards of me got under people's skin, and then they started having questioning thoughts too.
Ah, that's awesome.
They're like, have you noticed, like, isn't it interesting how the media depicts white rural Americans as, you know, like subhuman, you know, like just subhumans, just the way that the media used to depict black people.
Mm-hmm.
Just the exact same way. Like, it's just parallel. Now they're like, okay, they're the enemy group, and then of course they put black people all the way up here, and we can do like, but there are no standards for black people. There are no standards whatsoever. In fact, it's to the point where black people, we're expected to be stupid, ignorant, throw tantrums, get what we want,
and be okay, and like be
and
not be
reprimanded
reprimanded.
That's just black people.
Not be. Oh
That's
yeah.
how they are. It's their culture.
No. We'll give them a pass.
Leave them
It's
alone.
okay.
No, leave them alone.
Like we're fucking
black
pets.
people. They
like
need
we're
to
fucking
express.
dogs.
Yeah. Just let them express.
Just let them shit on the carpet. It's okay.
Exactly.
They're black
like
people.
with my dog, I don't expect her to know how to use a human toilet. That's why I put her on a leash and I walk her outside and she does her business. And if it's a number 2, I have the plastic bag and I pick it up. And I don't get mad at her for not being able to use a toilet like a human being, because she's not. So I don't get angry. So what these people, these progressives, leftists, or whatever you call them, have been indoctrinated to view black people in the same way, right? The way they view their pets. You know, and all over Africa, people, you know, those who understand Trump and they know, they love him because they're like, you know, Trump doesn't treat us like a pet. We appreciate that. He treats us like equals, you know? But like people just don't know because this brainwashing, this indoctrination, this fear response, this fight, flight. Oh, did you see that spit fly out of my mouth?
I think I got that on camera.
Did you get it?
No.
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm just kidding.
The sun is shining.
You can't see anything. You can't see anything.
Like this, and it was like
I just spit right now too.
It was like this little Corona diamond of a, whatever. But
I'm sorry. I didn't read this again, you guys. Don't judge me. I fell off the wagon. Inonge was like, no. Why did you buy him? Like, I know.
Verstein, okay, I have to tell you, Verstein's like, Inonge, I'm cutting sugar out of my diet. Like, this is for weeks and weeks. I'm cutting sugar out of my diet, right? We go to this rest stop in Texas, and she's like, oh, I'm buying toffee. And I was like,
fudge.
I'm sorry, fudge. And she got these 2 squares of fudge for me, and I haven't even finished them yet. And she was like, finish them immediately. And I'm like, oh, that's sweet.
Only within like 30 minutes.
That's enough.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've been doing well though. I'm spurging now because I'm on vacation.
If people were to do their research, just watch a couple of documentaries about how the Chinese communists, how did China get so rich in such a short period of time?
Slaves.
Slave labor. That's how. You know what China did? Went into the countryside, forcibly removed people off of their ancestral land. People had been living hundreds, thousands of years on the same land. The Chinese government took it all and then forced them to live in these like high-rise cities. The size of this car in some of these high-rises is like, this would be my living space. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like basically a cage. They would put them in a cage, like cattle.
People, and they live in cages. And the pantheon, the global elites, they love this model because they get to, they're rich beyond imagination. They don't care for
on a spiritual level, you're basically stealing people's energy.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets demonic. But I'm going to go back to that, but I wanted to say what is, what I find really ironic is that all these black people who are always crying about slavery, who've never experienced slavery, never gone through, their parents haven't experienced slavery, but yet there's, black culture is very obsessed with buying, tennis shoes and hair weaves made from slaves. Made by, and electronics made from slaves.
Yeah.
They won't acknowledge that, but they're contributing to modern day slavery while complaining about real slavery that they've never been to. The irony, right?
And like we are actually in a state of civil war, but it's not necessary anymore. Like, first of all, like if I were in the pantheon, if I were one of these gods or demigods, I would think, you know what? We have such advanced technology now. Bombing stuff and shooting stuff up is very messy, right? And we have technology. We can get into people's minds. We can entrain their brains. We can use propaganda. We can use social media. We can use these algorithms to control people's behavior and keep them apart from each other as well. There's no need for bombs. There's no need for like dropping bombs out of the sky and tanks and all of that, because the war is on the mind, and we get people to hate and fear each other so much. And on the soul, they'll just kill each other. And then we can use the medical system as well.
Yeah, that's what
like these protocols, and we can do all sorts of stuff, and then it can be a nice clean war. That's it. And maybe there'll be
if you're not critically thinking, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, there's no need for like tanks and guns and bombs. It's really not necessary.
And if you're a non-critically thinking person, nobody would ever be the wiser. Like, oh no, just like the people that wear the mask and get lung infections from the mask, and they're like, I got the COVID, but you were wearing the mask since day one. How'd you get the COVID?
Well, you know what?
I mean, no, you got a lung infection from wearing the mask every day, all day.
I say follow the money and follow who's celebrating. What I mean by that is right now, the Communist Chinese Youth League is celebrating Biden's win right now and what happened. The Communist Party is celebrating because now China can say, who's going to stop us now? We can do whatever we want to Hong Kong and Taiwan. There's nobody who's going to stop us now. We've defeated the United States. Nobody will stop us.
They haven't
We can
defeated.
do any. Well, that's what they think. That's what I'm saying. It's like that's what they really believe. I mean, the media is saying that. It's what the media is saying. But anyway, in any case, if you want to know who's in control and if you want to really understand what people's motivations are, just follow the money, follow who's celebrating what, and then also follow the policies. If there's any policy that creates hatred, balkanization, racism, fear, joblessness, homelessness, it's all satanic. Absolutely. It's of Satan. I have to say it. The devil is a liar. The devil is real. It's true. This is what they do, you know? And all you have to do is, it's sort of like cause and effect, right? If this, then that. If this, then that. It's like, oh, this is not a good policy. It's going to destroy people's lives, you know?
Yeah. And I was thinking, I mean, we just had a rough day yesterday on so many levels. I'm definitely feeling better, you guys, today. I hope you are too.
And you know,
and it's not over. It's not over. At least we have 2 more weeks, and then even after that, like, who knows?
Yeah.
I feel like there's so much evidence. There's people that's been working so hard. We've worked so hard, you guys. We can't just be like, you know, I give up when I die. That's when I give up. That's when it's time to give up.
At the rally, we saw so many people, so many Chinese people.
Yeah.
I'm sure most of them are like American citizens, but they were.
Did you
born and
interview
raised.
anybody? I didn't interview anybody.
I didn't. I was trying to keep up with you guys, not lose you.
I know, it was great. Yeah.
So they were born and raised in China. They experienced communism. The older ones experienced the communist revolution, and which is actually what's happening right now, is dividing the people against each other. But so there are a lot of people there from China, and they were trying to educate people about the CCP's role in all of this. And who else were there? I forgot.
I saw a Korean flag too. Somebody was waving a Korean flag as well.
Yeah.
I have some footage. There were little snippets of the cars that were parked that had signs talking about how evil the CCP was on these cars. They took up a whole block. But before that, there were a bunch of people, Chinese, that were at the rally. And there was this one lady who was talking. We were waiting in line to go to the bathroom, and she was just talking about how this is about the CCP, and it's like, you know, it's the same thing happened in China, and you know, I mean, you guys know me. I love Chinese culture. And I love Chinese people, but it's the CCP.
The government.
And the way that they treat their own people. So if they're going to treat their own people like that,
like,
makes
we
you
have
think
to
they're
remember with Corona, like in the beginning, remember when they were locking people in their apartments for 3 months at a time? They were locking them in. People were jumping out of their windows, committing suicide. People were starving to death in their own apartments. Like, we have to remember that. And this is what they're trying to roll out across the United States.
Across the world.
And a world, yeah. And I met a bunch of guys at this rally who are, you look at them, you're like, okay, they come from a small town. They're rural guys, right? All these men, I went up and I talked to them. All of them, their businesses have been destroyed. Their communities are utterly destroyed. Like, all of them. Like, everybody there. And the media is making them look like stupid, dumb, backwards people who don't want to progress, and they don't want to modernize, and they just want to stick to their old-fashioned ways, and, you know, they're like uneducated and backwards and everything. But these guys know exactly what's going on. But can you imagine? I mean, it's like this, everything was taken from them.
You've lost everything, you guys, everything.
Everything. And I was talking to this other woman, and I said, I was talking about how I believe in the 1960s, what was done to us in the 60s is being done to the rest of the country, right? Because in the 1960s, Lyndon B. Johnson did his war on poverty, which took black men out of the home and then incentivized black women from never marrying. And then it's decimated us. And this woman, she was like, I know, yeah, I know, I see it. You know, she's a white woman, but she's like, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You know what I mean? Their policies, and like, I find these are like evil policy. any policy that destroys families, that takes a man's ability to earn from his family away, especially for men. There's men and women, we're absolutely different from each other, but like that's a man's value, right?
Yeah.
And that causes like policies that take everything from people and
it darkens
hurt
the
them
spirit
psychologically
too. Yeah.
and spiritually.
Demoralization.
It's freaking evil.
It's
That's
like taking
all
a
it
woman's
is.
ability away to have children.
Yeah. And
It's
then
like
what
that.
they do with, like what they've done with black people is they've played on all of our fears and insecurities and even the traumas. Like even if we didn't experience the trauma, these are stories of traumas that are passed down through the generations, or it's like epigenetics, you know, like my grandmother had a trauma and then it was passed to my mother.
Oh,
to me
yeah,
on the
because
genetic,
it's in your muscle
cellular
memory.
level.
Yeah, so,
in the
yeah.
muscle memory, and then what they do is they take that thing and they amplify it.
Yes.
And it's like, just leave us alone. Just leave us alone. Like, don't mess with us, you know.
They know that too. Yeah.
And there are people who literally believe that we're like vassals of the state, or we belong to the government. Like,
that we're like
especially
we're
like,
slaves.
I don't belong to. I don't.
Yeah.
Nobody owns.
We're
me.
property.
Yeah.
We're property. There are people that
But
think that though.
if you destroy people's ability to take care of themselves, you know, then you put them into a state of perpetual slavery. So we have to work, you know, wake people up. And I don't even hate people on the left. I think that they're just not aware.
Yeah,
They
for sure.
don't even know. And they've been indoctrinated to fear anybody who doesn't think the way that they do. They've
Yeah,
been
for sure.
indoctrinated to think that people are a threat.
Yeah.
And then, but man, it was so weird. We were there for what, 4 hours yesterday?
Yeah, about 4 hours.
And that 4-hour period of time, I learned so much. Because I'd always known that the media spins stories. And I've always known about media propaganda and all of that. But it's more theoretical. But to actually be there and experience it,
yeah.
and then look at what they're showing on TV, it's like night and day.
Oh, good. You know what? You kept saying that, and I didn't really acknowledge you for that, because I guess I've already been through that. Not to be like, oh, I know, but I guess flashing back and thinking about when I first started getting it to experiencing it, because you hear about people lying. You're like, oh, you hear the media lies, and then you might catch them in a lie.
How much they lie.
Or when they lie on you specifically.
Yeah, and
you're
it's
like,
like-
oh, you just lied on me. Like, so when I went to protest CDC Georgia a few years ago, this is 2016, and they were talking about, they're like, oh, there weren't that many people. They basically couldn't had it. They could have used an aerial shot to show so many people, but they basically just went across the street and took pictures.
No drones.
Yeah, no drones
know,
or
I was
anything
like,
like that.
wow,
And we're just like, but there were so many people there, and they just lied. And I was just like, I was there, and I know that. And my brother, I was trying to tell my brother, he's like, well, do you have any footage? Do you have any proof? I'm like, well, no, I don't have a drone camera. Yeah, I didn't know that they were gonna do that. I have.
But isn't it interesting how, like, drones, you cannot fly your drones in certain areas, and I'm sure that's by design, because there was not a single drone.
Like, it
that I
doesn't
saw.
work, or you get just fined?
Well, because if there are protests and rallies, well, of course they use the drones for the BLM stuff and the Antifa stuff. There's drone footage, you know, and maybe there is drone footage for this latest thing.
I didn't see any
Capitol
drones
Hill.
up there though.
I didn't see any drones,
Yeah.
but it's really like, it's the art of deception, and I'm telling you. So who is the ruler of this world? This dualistic, physical, hot, cold, up, down, pleasure, pain world. The king of lies.
The devil.
The devil. He's the king of lies. He's a liar. He's the king of lies.
The devil is a
know,
liar.
He's a liar. I mean, and it's just, and he's the king of deception. And he's the great deceiver, the greatest deceiver. And, you know, that's why I advocate people just getting together and talking and making friends with people and just sharing information, you know.
Yeah, well,
And,
that's
like,
that's
not
part of
seeing
the.
anybody as an enemy just because the media or the government tells you no.
Yeah.
They could be your best friend, and it's so funny because there have been incidences where, like, there was a rally and a counter rally, and then it would be like Antifa against, like, they wind up talking and they wind up being friends, and they're like, oh wow, we all agree that we share this one enemy that's, you know, screwing us over. And yeah, we have some political, philosophical differences, but they wind up being drinking buddies. And that's another reason why it's really important to do these lockdowns and
or just keep people away from each other,
keep people away from each other. Because once you're in the room with somebody, it's easy to see and feel and experience their humanity and be curious and talk it out and share information and, you know, see each other as human beings. But the media is
the same
really
thing.
playing us.
The same thing that why arts and sports have been corrupted too, because if you can bond over sports or art or concerts or music, you know, then you're more likely to listen to somebody that's on the opposite side, because you're like, okay, well, I know that they're human in this respect. We just went to this badass concert. We love music. We bonded. Or we just went to this sports game or whatever. And this is, I used to be like, yeah, if you're an artist, you should be able to use sport. You should be able to talk about politics in your sports and your arts. And now, as this whole thing has transpired, I actually believe that you shouldn't do that. I mean, I don't know. Really? I guess I shouldn't say that, but I think that I'm saying okay. I guess I'm more open. I'm open to the reasons why people say that you shouldn't do it, because I think that is a place where it's kind of like a neutral ground or a safe space. Or if you don't talk about those things, then you can have more camaraderie in that. If your interest is getting camaraderie and making sure that, you know, there's peace and we are progressive as a human species, I think those things could be, you know, maybe those things should be talked about in those spaces for a break, just to get a break too. Because that was one thing too that was really frustrating me, you know, when all this political shit really started to climax, was I didn't even want to talk about this political shit at the beginning, and I just wanted to, you know, 4 years ago, you know, when all this really started to get crazy, I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go to this concert, talk about a concert. I'm gonna go to South by Southwest, talk about South by. I was just like, I cannot get a break. So it's kind of like brainwashing, you know, when you brainwash people, you know, like the formula is, I've studied a little bit. Not that I'm trying to brainwash people, but I did a seminar when I thought I wanted to do it to prove it wasn't a cult, and I did a little research on brainwashing and how people can be brainwashed, and I kind of got upset, but I'm obsessed about that for a while. So basically, when you brainwash somebody, you basically surround them with your ideology, and you don't let them get a break where their mind can have other thoughts interfere. This is why too, when people protest abortions, you want to isolate them. You want to feed them food that is high in sugar and carbohydrates, to get their brain not as attached to their body, to get them out of their body and to make them more controllable. You want to keep them away from other people that could give them a different perspective, and keep training them with your brains. So it's funny because there's a comedy sketch video called How to Start a Cult or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god, it's so funny because it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And anyway, it's it looks like it was made in the 70s, but I'm like, oh my god, it's so true. That's what they do. So with the whole thing about taking over pop culture and art, this is also how they're brainwashing people. I think everybody uses the word brainwash very loosely, but I think there are words that are used very loosely in language, but it's the same.
It's entrainment.
But brain entrainment is the brainwashing.
Yeah.
But
when you say brainwash, it's sort of we wash things to make them clean, and that's anything.
I know, but people
clean.
don't
It doesn't
really.
make a person's brain.
But people understand when you say brainwashing what it means.
Yeah, we know.
What I mean?
I wish we had a better.
I know you're getting pedantic a little bit, right? You're technically, it's the brain is in training. But yeah, you guys know what I mean, right? So then that way your brain, and then you also add the humiliation factor, right? Where you shame people for having a different point of view, so they don't dare to think on their own, right? Even you read 1984.
That's the big one. The shame. I think that's probably the most powerful. Tactic. I think of all of them, shame is the most powerful.
Well, also even your own introspection, because you can kind of break out of that if you introspect. But then, in 1984, you're not supposed to have a diary. And Winston, the main character in 1984, he's writing down his thoughts and his his questions and things, his observations of what's going on around him and what is off about it in his diary. And he gets in trouble for having a diary, but they don't even want you writing it down because you can
they want you to have the attention span and the memory of a flea.
Yeah.
You know? And then it's hard to remember stuff. Like, this is the thing. If your body is in a constant state of stress and there's like a lot of cortisol running through your body all the time, it's very difficult to learn new information. Cortisol and adrenaline, you're not in a receptive state to learn new information. And it actually hurts your short-term memory as well. So with these coronavirus lockdowns, constant, the media, fear mongering. If you don't wear your mask, you're a mass murderer. That's what you are. You don't care. Shame on you. Shame. Then
you're killing people. You're killing children. You killed my grandmother.
You can't go to work. I mean, well, if you're lucky, you get to work from home. But there's some people who just can't work at all. But they can't go anywhere either. And so after like 10 months of being in this state, constantly fight-flight state, and not many people, especially working class people, they don't have the income anymore. They're not eating as well anymore. They're afraid all the time. It destroys the immune system. And so when flu season comes along, they're more likely to get seriously ill or even die. And this is all by design. Like, I could see it. Like, I think any 6th grader or even a 4th grader could figure it out. If you just said it like a Dr. Seuss story, where you've got, like the star-bellied sneetches and all of that. But it's like any child can figure it out if you just give them the basics about how to be healthy, good nutrition, and just give them the basics and just lay out the scenario. They'd all come to the conclusion I came to. But the thing is, and then like there are people who are they're like social engineers. They have PhDs and they study how to move vast populations of people and get them to do what they want, and they study migration patterns, and they study government policy and health policy and infrastructure and all of that. And they know everything. They know, but they're willing to do it. They're willing to sacrifice people because they have the inside scoop on stocks and Bitcoin and where the money is at and all of that, and I guess they figure anybody who doesn't know what they know is just stupid and lazy and deserves to die
or doesn't use it to their advantage, because there are people too that understand how this stuff works, but we choose not to do it because we have morals.
Yeah,
because we realize the social implications. Like I'm plugging my conspiracy realist course, but in one, I forgot which module it is, but I use a clip with Sean Parker and Charma Palihapitiya, I think he was one of the heads of Facebook. And it's like, Sean and Park, they were talking about how they knew that the technology that they were inventing were going to have dramatic repercussions on society, and they did it anyway. And now they're like, oh, well, now we're guilty. I'm like, but you motherfuckers, you knew.
The love of
you guys
money
aren't
is
that
the root
stupid.
of all
You guys
evil.
are stupid. Yeah.
Did you know
and
in the
power.
Bible that we've been mistaught? Like in the Bible, we say the original sin was a sexual sin, or Eve with the serpent, or there's all these stories. No, it didn't have anything to do with that. The original sin in the Bible was the invention of money. The invention of money, and that's why the Bible says the love of money, not money, but the love of money. When you say the love of money, it's loving money more than human beings, more than life. So the love of money is the root of all evil. And then the thing is, when these people, like I'm talking about, like Fauci and Gates and Bezos and all of these people, they're so high up here. That's why I call them the pantheon. That to them, we're numbers, we're charts, we're statistics, we're graphs. They have no relation to us. Like if we were to die en masse, they wouldn't blink an eye. They would feel nothing whatsoever. But they're in competition with each other, and they're set for who can make the most billions this, fiscal quarter or whatever. So for them, they're like, if you can imagine, like little boys on their knees on a floor, and they've got these little tin soldiers, and they have these, they're they're playing, or it's like playing a video game. These days it's video games. In the olden days, these little tin soldiers, and they would play war games, and they would move them around. Or like if you play a game of chess. I've played chess my whole life.
You know play chess?
I love chess.
I didn't know that. Let's play chess.
Yeah,
I have this bomb ass like crystal board that I've only played once.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I love chess. But it's like for
for
them, we are chess pieces. We're pawns. Our lives don't mean anything to them. I mean, we're expendable. If anything, we're good units of production. And if they can indoctrinate us to do things in the physical world that are against our best interests, they will do it if it makes them money.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just the way it is. And it's the sooner we wake up to that.
And it's power.
We don't even have to hate them or anything like that.
But money is energy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So to me, that's why I always take it back to the spiritual war. Because even when you're having all these slaves work for you, you're using their energy to produce things for you. And that wears them out. So you're basically sucking their energy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
and then that feeds into the spiritual.
I mean, because everybody, we're all here. We all have our gifts and our talents and our purpose. But if you've got these, technocrats in the pantheon telling us where we can go and where we cannot go, and they're like rigging the monetary system and rigging elections and all of that, they're thieves. They're stealing our life. They're stealing our lives from us. They're causing. Sometimes I think, when people like Bezos and Zuckerberg, and, they leave this world, they go meet our maker. And they have to have the life review and relive everything that they ever did and said, but also from the perspectives of the people they interacted with. Like, wow, it's not going to be pretty.
It ain't gonna be pretty. It ain't gonna be nice. Ain't gonna be no strawberry shortcake.
No.
All right, maybe we should end it here because we're like going almost 47 minutes. My arm is about to fall off. I've been on this camera for 47 minutes. All right, guys. So, just to wrap up, it ain't over. It ain't over. This ain't the end of America.
No, the spirit's alive here. We still have our guns.
Yeah, well, we still have our guns. There's still other pathways to victory. We have 2 weeks, and we'll have to see what happens on the 20th. But it's oh look, you guys, Trump in signs. I don't know if you guys can see that as we're talking. Can you see that? We're right. I hope I caught that. I don't know how with the camera showed, but as we're talking, see, I think it's a good omen, you guys. All right, I love you, and I'll be back. I'll be back. Wait. I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger, and we'll be black.
And we'll be black.
All right, bye guys. You pieces of bye.
Ciao.